Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in to Ready, Set, Grow with Alita Roundtree Mathis. Today, I have a guest all the way from Canada. Her name is Alexi Bracey. Alexi, if you will, introduce yourself and if you could tell us a bit about what you do. I know that you are a community leader and you also have life coaching experience. So tell us a bit about you, Alexi.
Well, I'm a happiness advocate, trainer, and speaker. Like for many people, something doesn't work or a disaster happens or challenge happens, and okay, so forth and so forth. So, um, mindset and resilience, it opened up challenges and also through food as a plant based chef. And then when I lost that opportunity to no longer be a chef through an accident, I thought, what am I going to do now? So over the years, I had worked at various fishing lodges, and I would entertain the men during dinner time by sharing a joke. And so I knew I had that gift to share jokes, but I didn't want to be a stand-up comedian. So what am I going to do? And so then when I found out that one of my key values was to bring joy, the joke telling fell right into my lap, as well as the Happy for No Reason training program. So I incorporate humor into everything I do, from joke telling to smiles to a hug to a pat on the arm to bringing flowers to somebody to just offer them an encouraging message, because we all need a little bit of a boost. And so I really am very supportive of kindness, gratitude, and joy in daily steps with everybody I meet, including myself.
You said something very important. You say healing. I do feel that some people have the gift of healing, and it doesn't always mean that it's spiritual. Sometimes
That's
it
right.
is an act that can be done, as you stated, just touching somebody's arm or just empowering somebody, saying an encouraging word to somebody can help lift a person's mood. And so when I think about a healer, it's someone who is naturally activated. They're naturally activated and a take charge person. They know what another person needs. That's what I feel like a healer. They automatically can sense when someone is down, when someone needs encouragement, when someone is feeling low, and they know what to do in that moment to help bring that person up. I know you told me that you were a community person. Tell me things that you encounter in the community that has weighed on you very heavily.
Well, our society, especially prior to the last 4 years, we've become very much blaming and complaining and shaming about this, that, or the other. People say, well, cost of groceries is so expensive. Be grateful you got the money to pay for it. Oh, it's going to rain again tomorrow. Just be grateful it's a rain and not a flood. So, because so farmers can raise their crops and feed their animals. There's always something positive to be gleaned in anything negative. Christopher Reeve said that the most satisfying years of his life were his last three, because based on the research he did on spinal cord injury, he was able to impact maybe many people's lives and change their lives. So, in spite of people go, oh, cancer, oh my gosh, but it opened the doors to so many other things. I mean, I was already a chef, so because of this challenge that was thrown my way, I probably still would be flipping burgers in some barbecue hut in the Bahamas. So instead, I'm teaching people how to eat healthy
Yes,
and share joy to people's lives.
that is awesome. That is awesome. Alexi, I know you had mentioned also that you were once homeless. I want you to tell me that experience, how that experience was for you.
Well, homeless doesn't mean living on the street. It just means not having a permanent address. So actually, last year I moved 6 times, um, due to various circumstances. And from that, I learned a lot about the people I was spending time with. Most of the people that provided some kind of form of residence for me were friends. And so, the saying goes, you don't know what a person is like until you live with them. Well, that is so very true. And everybody on the planet is suffering some form of trauma, whether it was in your childhood years or maybe it was in your 20s or 30s. And so it really taught me what people are all about and their hurts and how not to judge. And more importantly than anything is to forgive, because that doesn't necessarily mean they're doing it intentionally. They're doing it because they don't know another way. But it just opened my eyes to what the world is really like. It's just for a lot of people, it's surviving. But what I learned about it was about resilience, really finding and cementing my purpose. And from that, I'm writing a book in that capacity, just to, because through resilience, you it's not falling apart when you're homeless. It's finding the strength and the power to go on and be resilient about it, and getting through all the chaos and focusing positively. And you just move through the next step, and you will be divinely guided in whatever that means to you, whether it's affirmations, whether it's praying to higher power, whether it's visualizations, whatever. But it certainly was a very impactful year for me. And through my book, I hope to impact many other people that are maybe in a similar situation. And I can honestly say I don't regret it, because it has been a tremendous learning journey. And I'm a better person as a result of that. And it was definitely my humor that sustained me throughout that year. I was still continued um, to, um, play practical jokes on people, offer a stranger a joke. I have a reputation for sharing humor through jokes. As a chef, I make these heart-shaped, gluten dairy-free little sweets. One's a coconut cashew truffle, and the other one's a raw macaroon. And so
Okay.
I would hand them out to people on my dog walks or at the grocery store, or whatever. And I'd say, a little happiness in your tummy goes a long way. So what can I say? And just impacting people in little ways. Like, for example, I have two dogs that get a lot of attention, and people are petting my dogs and they say, "Oh, your dogs are so beautiful." And I say, "It runs in the family." And so they laugh. You know,
Yes.
I'm standing at a stoplight, and my dogs are sitting beside me. They're very well behaved. They don't need to be on a leash. And so I each give them a treat. And there's a little 4-year-old girl watching all this, standing there with her mother. And I say, "Do you want to give them a treat?" Or her eyes are as big as saucers. And so I put a little treat in each one of her hands, and she gives them to the dogs. 3 months later, the little girl sees me and she remembers. So
Oh,
I really impacted her, maybe
yes.
in the sense that she really enjoyed doing that, maybe in the sense that she doesn't have to be scared of dogs, whatever it is. There's all sorts of
Yes.
little things you can do just to make people feel better,
Yes.
give a person without a car a ride to do some shopping, invite your neighbor who has just lost a loved one for lunch. There's all sorts of little things you can do just to spread a little happiness and goodness in people's lives. And it just shows to me, how resilient I have really become, and flexible, and just going with the punches. What can I say?
Yes. It's amazing that we have strength that we are not even aware of sometimes when we're going through our trials. And we, I say, I know there's a higher power than myself, because there have been instances in my life where I know I could not have sustained that had I not had power from another source. And so
Hmm.
when I hear you say you are resilient, in spite of everything that you have gone through, you have still spreaded love to other people. You still lifted other people up. We live in a society now, everything is so divided.
Hmm.
Everybody's heart is in one place. No one seems to have compassion in what we're used to. People are so numb to things now. Everybody is this, if they're this color or that color. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of division in the earth right now, and so when you have that servant's heart, it doesn't matter where you are or where that person is. And that's when we're talking about judgment. When you mention about not being judgmental of another person, because we all go and are in places of life, and we never know where we're going to end up. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's why it's so important to not judge other people, because where we are today could be totally different in a couple of hours, and it could change drastically in a short period of time, and we don't even think about it. We always think that things are going to flow perfectly, and it's
That's right.
not going to always flow perfectly. And we don't expect the worst. We always expect the best, but we never expect or plan for the worst. And so I always tell people, plan for the worst. Plan for the worst that you feel could happen, and be ready, because at any moment your life can change. Your thought process can change, your behavior could change, your mental health, your sight could change, and you could
That's
be a totally different person in a matter of hours. So
mm-hmm.
when I see you, I often see you posting, and I see you building people up, and I see so much passion there. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I wanted to bring you on my platform, because I've been watching you for some time, and I like those people who are passionate and consistent. And what I've noticed, you have been very consistent in what you do. When you go live, when you talk about mental health, when you talk about people overcoming these things that you have already experienced, you are setting the tone for the people that may be going through what you've been through, or the people who have upcoming challenges that they're not even aware about. And so I want to ask you, what drives you the most being in this place of life?
Just sharing something that brings joy to people's lives, an act of kindness, an act of gratitude, and definitely my jokes, because I know it really impacts people. It really feeds my soul, but more importantly, it lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, raises the endorphins, the feel good hormones that support good brain health, and laughter has been shown to promote longevity. So I share a joke. The guy goes home. He's talking to his wife. He says, I met this crazy woman at the dog park. She shared, it was really good. And the story continues.
I love it.
Like you
Yes.
just don't know how far you impact people.
Yes. Yes. And do you know, you can impact people. You can do one thing or say something that will last forever
That's right.
in that person's mind. Like, they will never forget that seed you planted. I've ready, set, grow. My mission is to plant seeds that change lives. And
Hmm.
I'm always planting seeds in people, even at, like you say, at the grocery store, in the park, in the community. And you never know how far that word will go with them. And people
And
hold
it
on to
doesn't
that.
necessarily have to be something funny. Like for example, a couple of years ago, I was living in this rise, and I'd be taking my dogs for a walk, crossing the street, and on the corner there was a young Filipino man having a cigarette, and so we just started a conversation and we talked for maybe 5 minutes. I was sort of like his Canadian aunt, and he had come from the Philippines to look after his brother who was suffering from cancer, and he would take him
Okay.
to appointments and that kind of thing. And so I'd see him every 2 or 3 weeks, and we would chat for a few minutes. And then one day he said to me that his brother had passed away, and would I go to the funeral another week just down the hall? And I said, or down the road. And I said, well, absolutely. And so when I arrived, there were about 30 Filipino women sitting in the chapel. I made my way up to. He took me to his brother's casket. I had never met his brother,
Okay.
and he said that they were waiting to have the body in the coffin shipped back to the Philippines for burial because the mother couldn't make it to Canada. And so we exchanged a few words, and I left. 3 weeks later, I'm walking down the street, and this young Filipino woman approaches me and she says, "Were you at so and so's funeral reception?" I said, "Yes, I was." She says, "You have no idea how you impacted our community."
Wow. Wow.
I-
Wow.
This
Amazing.
story is going to stay with me
Amazing.
forever. But you just
Yes.
never know how you impact people. You don't know.
I can remember I was a teenage girl and I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. And there was this gentleman who was in this place and he spoke something so profound over my life that night. And it changed the trajectory of my life. When he sowed that seed, it stuck with me and it stuck with me up until this day. I'm 45 and I was about 19 years of age. And what he spoke, he told me that I did not belong in the environment that I was in. And he told me, he said, I want you to leave and I don't want you to ever come back here again because you do not belong here. And that seed manifested and it stuck with me my entire life. I don't care what situation I was in. I don't care what I was going through. I don't care if I was happy or sad. His voice was with me throughout my life because everything he said, I was reminded of what he stated, what he said to me on that night. And it changed my life. I can remember sharing what he shared with me to my parents because during that time I was young, I was making bad decisions. And when my parents learned that he had spoke this over me, they just thank God because even though they were praying for me, there was somebody else out there
Mhm.
that was also sowing seeds. And so we don't know where or who God is going to use
That's
in
right.
that moment somebody needs it. But what I do know is that God will put people in your life and in your path for you to sow into. And it's
Mm,
effortless. You don't even have to force the relationship. It comes effortless. And so
yeah.
just know that your work is not in vain. You know, somebody, it don't
Mhm.
have to be 100 people. Even if it's one person, even if it's that one little girl at the store that needs to hear what you have to say, continue planting those seeds.
Yeah.
And I just, I encourage you. I thank you for being who you are because I've watched you over time and you have been consistent into pouring into people. So
Well, thank you for
tell me
that.
more.
I
Tell
get.
me more. What are
Well,
your future goals? You want to, I know you're writing a book.
yeah, TEDx.
Okay,
Um,
TEDx, yes. Now
yeah,
have you been a
TEDx.
speaker on TEDx?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Okay.
So, speaker on TEDx. Speak on some major, big stages, and
Yes.
here on TV, on some national TV. I'm open to wherever, whether it's in Canada or the States, being
Yes.
interviewed by somebody of well respected, because I really want to make an impact. Because I have this gift and I really want to share it because people
Yes.
can be happier, more kind, um, and just spread it because it just feeds my soul. That's all I can say. I just feel like a different person. I start to smile inside, and I don't know. It's just a really good. And when I post my day, the information just comes from thin air, or maybe an article
Yes.
I just read. But this thing, this would be a good story, and so how can I craft it and put it together? So thanks to GPT, it helps me a little bit. Sometimes I have to tell them
Good.
just not so much information, just a little bit.
Yes. I love it. I love it. Now, Alexi, would you mind sharing your age with us, or is that something you prefer to not share? I believe there was some freezing going on. Is it froze on your end? So I believe we did have, I believe Alexi, okay, she may have had some bad connection on her end. However, Alexi, I thank you so much for joining this live and just sharing with people your passions and what drives you in today's society. And I want to encourage you to continue, spreading the good news, continue touching someone on the arm and bringing them joy, continue spreading good vibes in the community. And I say, don't allow anything to stop you from what you want to do and what you're passionate about. Sometimes it may be difficult and you may feel like you're lacking in some areas, but I say continue to go forth in everything that you have set in your heart to do. And so I thank everyone for tuning in to this live stream. And I appreciate everyone who has tuned in. If you would like to be a guest, you can contact me at www.alitaroundtree.com, or you may reach out to 404-969-2344. Thank you for tuning in.